Good dinner Shabbos, Parshas Bechukosai, Tovshim Pevov. I hope you're doing well. I hope you had a wonderful week. This week, we discuss a topic: cash in the bank, security, gold bars, stashed away. Everyone wants it, can't blame you. But have you ever stopped and asked yourself, what exactly is so enticing about it? What makes it feel so desirable? Is it only the comfort, the freedom? Or is it something deeper? Is there a feeling that perhaps we've overcome the state of needing others, coming to Hashem, perhaps, not having to come and beg and worry? What is it about having that independence that's so intriguing? It's very important that we think about this, because if we think about it deeper, did we ever think what happens to our Shemana Esrei? Did we ever think of the feelings of perfect inner content when we have all the money stashed away? We have bars of gold sitting. What happens to our Baruch Aleinu Shemana Esrei? What happens to our Imah V'yira? Yes, there's health and there's other things that we daven for as well. But in terms of Parnasa and Rosh Hashanah and Kippur, is our davening, is our drive to just get in and get our tefillos in, and the Ilah, is that just going to flatten? Are we going to just lose our desperation for Kadosh Baruch Hu? These are all important questions, and even for these sfeikus, for the what ifs, those feelings of comfort that we can think about, that we wonder about others, the Torah has perspective on this as well. The beginning of this is Parshas Behar focuses on the mitzvah of Shemitah and Yovel, and talks about the laws of ancestral land, ownership in Eretz Yisrael, and the eventual return of the land to its original family. And something we find very interesting is the Torah wants that when it belonged to a certain family, after Yovel goes back to the person, and then we have the halachas of Shemitah. And in the Parsha of Shemitah, we find something very, very interesting. The Parsha of Shemitah and Yovel, that a person sold the field to someone else, and then hardship came on him and he couldn't redeem the field. So the Torah says something very interesting. The Torah says, he becomes poor, his goyalai, his redeemer comes, and he's able to be v'galas mem karachav. He's able to redeem it for his brother. That's one situation. But what happens if he doesn't have a redeemer, he doesn't have a relative? The Torah says, ve'ish ki lo yeloi goyal. What if he doesn't have a goyal, he doesn't have a redeemer? How does he get it back? Then, v'hesiga yadai, if he has the means to acquire the land back, then he can buy it back. That's what happens in the Shemitah year. That's what happens in the Yovel year. He acquires the land back. The Nitziv asks a very important fundamental shaila, kasha. He says, I don't understand. The Torah, when it's outlining, as we just spoke, the protocol of a person who's redeeming the land himself, it seems that there's a redundancy. The Torah says, if a person has no redeemer, but he attains enough means. So seemingly the first half of the pasuk is unnecessary. What difference does it make whether he has a redeemer or not? The central point over here is simply that he eventually can acquire the field back with the means that he has. So it would suffice for the Torah to say, V'hisiga yadai, he has the means. Why does the Torah have to come and emphasize the fact that V'ishki lo yela goyal, he has no redeemer? What does that have to do with anything? He has the money, so it's a V'ish, a person that has the money, that he's V'hisiga yadai. What does that have to do with the fact that he has no redeemer? Azoi frek the Nitziv. The Nitziv explains, unbelievably, that the Torah is teaching us a deep yisoid in betachin. The yisoid over here is that the lo yela goyal is not a side detail. We can't omit that. It's not a redundancy. It's intentional. Why? Because we're all that person of lo yela goyal. We're all a person who at times we feel that we have no one else to return to. No fallback, no human redeemer. And the yisoid that the Torah is teaching us, tucked away in the Hilchos Yovel, is that it's dafka, through this dependence, through this trust and reliance of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that he specifically will become the person. He will reach the state. He will reach the financial comfort of the Hisiga Yadai. It's not always the person that has everything worked out perfectly, that has the money in the bank account, that has the bars of gold, that has the real estate, that has the company, that he's going to be Hisiga Yadai. Because if he doesn't have a relationship with the HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he's Ephes, he's nothing. Says the Nitziv, the Torah is teaching us, if you want to be a person that's V'hisiga Yadai, you'll be a person of means, you'll be a person of dignity, you'll be a person of respect, you will have the ability to reacquire, to redeem the field back. Sometimes it's specifically through the process of loy yeh loy goyel, not having that comfort, not having that fallback, not having the redeemer, not having that support. And when you realize that and you come to the Eibishter, when you don't have anything else and you come and you say to the Eibishter, I need you, then Hashem puts those people that have betachin on the people that are willing to give up and daven and channel everything to Kadosh Baruch Hu, then they become the people with means. They become the people of the Hisiga Yadai. That's the beauty that we learn over here. The message of the beginning of Behar. The message of Shemitah, of Yovel, is teaching us that it's not always the person with the money in the bank. It's not always the person that has access to everything. But the person that Ein L'Goyel, he ultimately will become the Hisiga Yadai. That's what the Nitziv tells us over here. Tying this, Behar and Bechukosai are together. What's the Shaykhis, what's the connection between the two? We quoted recently the Divrei Yisrael of Majitz, and he says something beautiful over here as well. He says that, you look in the beginning of Parshas Bechukosai, the Gemara tells us that Bechukosai, the Pashup of Bechukosai means my chukos, my laws, my decrees. But the Gemara in Behar teaches us that the word Bechukosai, chuk, could also mean parnasa. And therefore what the Torah is teaching us over here is another lesson of in Bechukosai telechu. Not only if you go Bechukosai in my decrees, but you realize that that Bechukosai means my decrees and parnasa, if everything is channeled to me, then the pasuk is telling you that when a person lives with the awareness that parnasa, that livelihood is decreed by Hashem, it goes hand in hand. We can't sever the two, they're inseparable. And you realize that just like a chayk means a decree, chayk also means parnasa, and everything is regulated, everything is determined and supervised by HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and there's no ways to beat around the bush. There's no workaround. Then the Torah promises, V'nasati gishmeichem be'itam, V'nosna ha'aretz zivula ve'etz asadi'itim period. Then I'll provide you rains in their proper time, and the land will give its produce, and the trees of the field will give their fruit. But what the Torah is teaching us is that the abundance flows specifically through that recognition. But when a person believes that everything comes solely through his avodah, through his work, through his koyach v'etzim yadi, then he confines himself to the limits of his own ability instead of attaching him to the limitless source of bracha itself. If you want to be zoichet to the bracha, it's bechukosai telechu. Chayk means decree, chayk means parnasa. And when we realize everything's from him, then Hashem says, V'nasati gishmeichem baretz. Threading this idea through, Reb Shimshon Pincus adds a powerful nakud over here. He asks the kasha on the pasuk and Bechukosai. The Torah promises prosperity and abundance. How? Not through money, not through gold, not through silver, not through kesef, zav, specifically through crops, rain, cattle. Asks Reb Shimshon Pincus, what's pshat? Why couldn't we say, I'll give you zav, I'll give you kesef, I'll give you physical things, you store it away. And he answers, it's mamish the idiom that we're saying. Because money can make a person feel self-sufficient. Crops, however, force dependency. Rain forces tefillah. Livestock forces awareness. And a farmer constantly, where is he going? Where is he channeling all of his pain, all of his worry? It's a rainy day, it's a sunny day, there's a drought, there's snow, there's too much heat, there's a drought. Where does he go? His eyes lift one place. Not to the cash, not to the gold, not under his bed, straight to the Eibishter. He's worried. Will there be rain? Will there be enough? Will the field grow? Will the animals survive? And even after success comes, he still needs siyata dishmaya for people to buy. He needs people to be excited about his product. his life remains connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Gold and silver can create the illusion of security. Money in the bank, assets stacked away, real estate in New York, the feeling of I'm set, 100%, it can give you that. But that feeling itself can become the danger. A person can slowly begin to drift, living as though he no longer needs Hashem in the picture. And Hashem therefore says, you want to know what bracha really is? You want to know what real blessing, real prosperity, real abundance is? What defines the spitz bracha? It's not when a person becomes so financially secure that he becomes dependent, that he can stop depending on Hashem. It's just the opposite. True bracha is abundance together with dependence, with reliance, with trust. That everything is from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Everything is decided, nigzar, nechtav and nechtam, all in Hashem's books. And there's no workaround, there's nothing I can do, and I need Him for every akol neshima or neshima talka. It's success together with tefillah, wealth together with awareness, to live with the constant realization and have our eyes turned upwards that everything is from Him. When Hashem is removed from the picture, a person can possess all the silver and gold in the world and still be empty. But when a person lives with kirvas elikim, even the struggle itself becomes connected to bracha. To summarize, the lesson we learn over here is that a Yid is never alone. We all experience moments, as the Nitzib spoke, of lo yeh la goyel, moments where we feel stranded, uncertain, we have no idea where to turn or what to do. But the Nitzib reminds us, the hidden insight in the Parsha of Yovel is that in those very moments, one of the greatest messages of Chizik that pertains to all of us is when a person does not run from those feelings, but instead allows to draw them closer. He embraces them and uses them as steps of connectivity, not of crumble. And he gets closer to Eibishter, something happens. The vulnerability itself becomes the opening for Geula. Then we become that person of Vesiga Yodai. We're able to acquire. And not only does it elevate a person spiritually, but it ultimately brings in bracha into his physical life as well. And while people may look at cash in the bank, gold bars, and endless reserves as a definition of security, the Torah reminds us and teaches us otherwise. That's not real security. Real security is living with the relationship, living with a kesha tamidi, living with his tavkos, with the Eibishter. As David Melch says, Kirvas Elikim Litoiv. There's nothing better. He doesn't write gold is better, silver is better, cash in the bank is better. Kirvas Elikim Litoiv. That is the best. That is the perfect. That's the epitome of good. That's the epitome of toiv. And when a person is able to come to Kadosh Baruch Hu and beg and cry and deepen that relationship, deepen the vulnerability that everything I realize is from you, that is the Mekar HaBracha, that is toiv. And that's why the Torah describes bracha through rain, crops and cattle, and not silver and gold. Because true bracha is not a life that removes dependence on HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but rather true bracha is a life where even abundance keeps a person connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu.